everybody. Ian here. I'm standing in Moscone Center at the Intersolar Conference at the DJI booth. Just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for your support so far. The podcast has received over 500 downloads in just the first 7 days. So really stoked, super humbled, and can't wait to continue more episodes, likely having an episode about solar as I learn more at this conference. So thank you so much for listening. Keep it on up, and we'll go ahead and return back to the regular scheduled programming.
Welcome to CommercialDrones.fm, the podcast that explores the commercial drone industry, the people who power it, and the concepts that drive it. I'm your host, Ian Smith.
Greetings all. Thanks for tuning in to Commercial Drones FM. I'm Ian Smith, and today we're going to chat about the Part 107 knowledge test. So I recently took the test. It's about 35 questions online, and it was fairly complex if you're not super familiar with aviation already, but it's nothing that a little studying and review can't help prepare you for. So a few things. You're already available actually to schedule the test through CATS, which is actually the computer-assisted testing service that the FAA uses. And you can go ahead to their website, which I'll go ahead and link up. It's called catstest.com. And you can access the pre-registration application, which actually will be available. You can start taking the test on August 29th, which is when the Part 107 rule takes effect. So I'll link that up, and you can pre-register in order to take it. And I believe there's around 600 to 700 testing centers nationwide in the U.S. here. So you can go ahead and get all your ducks in a row and have your test all set up and ready to go so you can just hit the ground running. So what I'm going to do, the format of this show is actually I'm going to go over the questions that were asked. So I was asked 35 on the specific test. I took the Part 61 operator certification test. So if you're an existing Part 61 certified pilot, then you can go ahead and you can take the test online. You actually don't have to go to the physical knowledge testing center, the physical KTC, and you can take it online as long as you have had a flight review within the past 24 months. So this is the test that I took. I passed the test. You have to get 100% on the test. If you don't get 100%, whether you're a pilot or not, you have to wait 14 days before you can take it again. So definitely don't want to continue going back, and you want to make sure that you study sufficiently so you don't have to wait 2 whole weeks each time you take the test. So the format of the show will be I'm going to read the questions that I was asked. I went ahead and notated all of them. The answer bank. I'm going to give you a second to kind of guess which is the correct answer, and then I will advise you of the correct answer and then give you a little bit of background where applicable, and then reread the whole question with the answer right afterwards so that you can kind of, hopefully internalize and memorize all of this information. But I definitely recommend, getting a copy of the pilot's handbook. You can go ahead, and I think the FAA or the link that I link up will give you an actual PDF link to go ahead and get this. So it's just got a wealth of information, tons and tons of insight and, information on the whole aviation, pilot process and the rules of the sky, as it were. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and, of course, start with question number 1. Which of the following individuals may process an application for a Part 107 remote pilot certificate with a SUAS rating? A, the remote pilot in command, B, the designated pilot examiner, or C, the commercial balloon pilot? The correct answer is B, the designated pilot examiner. So this is actually a little bit of a tricky question because it says, which of the following individuals may process an application for a remote pilot certificate? It's not which of the following individuals may submit an application for a Part 107 remote pilot certificate. So the correct answer, B, the designated pilot examiner, or otherwise known as the DPE, is the correct answer there. And that is just someone who's certified from the FAA to issue and sign off on certificates. They have a very interesting job. There's not a ton of them around the United States. They can charge a lot of money for some of the things that they do, and there's no official price book sometimes. But just for a little bit of insight, the knowledge test that the CATS testing center will administer costs $150. So question number 2. After receiving a Part 107 remote pilot certificate with a SUAS rating, how often must you satisfy recurrent training requirements? A, every 12 months, B, every 6 months, or C, every 24 months? The correct answer is C, every 24 months. So after receiving your Part 107 remote pilot certificate with an SUAS rating, you're going to have to satisfy the recurrent training requirements every 24 months. So every 2 years, you're going to have to retake that test or a version of that test in order to remain current, is what we would call it, so that your certificate does not expire. If you go ahead and let it lapse and you don't take that test within the 24-month period, then you're going to have to go ahead and take it again whenever you want to start flying commercially under Part 107. Question number 3. According to 14 CFR Part 107, a SUAS is an unmanned aircraft system weighing A, 55 pounds or less, B, less than 55 pounds, or C, 55 kilograms or less. The correct answer is B, less than 55 pounds. So this question gets a little bit tricky because it throws 2 units of measurement at you, the imperial and the metric system with the kilograms there, and also the wording is a little tricky. So 55 pounds or less was the option for answer A, and then option B was less than 55 pounds. So this is not up to and including 55 pounds for 107. It's actually anything less than 55 pounds. So if your aircraft, takeoff weight weighs a total of 54.9 pounds, then you'll be good to go. But if it weighs 55 pounds or above, then you cannot be cleared for takeoff under Part 107. Question 4. Unmanned aircraft means an aircraft operated A, during search and rescue operations other than public, B, for hobby and recreational use when not certificated, or C, without the possibility of direct human intervention from within or on the aircraft. The correct answer is C, without the possibility of direct human intervention from within or on the aircraft. So the question was unmanned aircraft means an aircraft operated without the possibility of direct human intervention from within or on the aircraft. So if you strap yourself onto your little drone and you put direct human intervention, then you are not operating an unmanned aircraft system. I'm sorry to break that news to you. You have to actually be a remote pilot. Question 5. Which of the following types of operations are excluded from the requirements in Part 107? A, model aircraft for hobby use, B, UAS used for motion picture filming, or C, quadcopter capturing aerial imagery for crop monitoring. The correct answer is A, model aircraft for hobby use. So of the following types of operations that are excluded from the requirements in 107, model aircraft for hobby use are excluded. So if you're just operating for fun, then you don't have to operate under Part 107 and you can go ahead and, operate as a hobbyist. Question 6. Which of the following operations would be regulated by 14 CFR 107? A, operating your SUAS for an imagery company, B, conducting public operations during a search mission, or C, flying for enjoyment with family and friends. Correct answer is A, operating your SUAS, your small unmanned aerial system, for an imagery company. So that is a commercial operation, and that is regulated by 14 CFR. CFR stands for Code of Federal Regulations 107. So that's just Part 107, and that is operating your unmanned system for an imagery company. That is a commercial operation, so you are operating and you are regulated by 14 CFR 107. Question 7. According to 14 CFR Part 48, when would a small unmanned aircraft owner not be permitted to register it? A, if the owner does not have a valid United States driver's license. B, if the owner is less than 13 years of age. Or C, all persons are eligible to register a small unmanned aircraft. The correct answer is B, if the owner is less than 13 years of age. So if you are under 13, if you're 12 years old, first of all, thanks. That's really cool that you found this podcast. But you definitely don't have to, you're not permitted to register your aircraft. You don't have to. I'm not going to get into this one. It's just, I feel like everyone should have to register their aircraft. But yeah, that's the regulation. So if you're less than 13 years of age, you don't have to, you're not permitted to register your aircraft. But again, of course, you cannot operate under Part 107 because you're not old enough. You have to be 16 years old. Question 8. Under what condition would a small unmanned aircraft not have to be registered before it is operated in the United States? A, when the aircraft has a takeoff weight that's more than 0.55 pounds, but less than 55 pounds, not including fuel and necessary attachments. B, when the aircraft weighs less than 0.55 pounds on takeoff, including everything that is on board or attached to the aircraft. Or C, all small unmanned aircraft need to be registered regardless of the weight of the aircraft before, during, or after the flight. B is the correct answer. When the aircraft weighs less than 0.55 pounds on takeoff, including everything that is on board or attached to the aircraft. So that is the condition in which a small unmanned aircraft would not have to be registered before being operated in the United States if it's less than 0.55 pounds on takeoff. So that's a tiny little drone. The thought process there is that it is fairly insignificant. It can't cause too much trouble, injure someone. I'm sure it could poke an eye out, but that's the thought process there. So you don't have to actually register an aircraft that weighs less than 0.55 pounds on takeoff, including everything that's on board or attached to the aircraft. Question 9. When using a small unmanned aircraft in a commercial operation, who is responsible for informing the participants about emergency procedures? A, the FAA inspector in charge. B, the lead visual observer. Or C, the remote pilot in command. The correct answer is C, the remote pilot in command. So the remote pilot in command, or the PIC as we call it, is the person who is ultimately in charge for the entire operation. So that includes pretty much every single aspect of it. So if something bad happens, you, the remote pilot in command, the PIC, is going to be responsible for that incident or accident. And you're also responsible for informing the participants of the operation about the emergency procedures. Always be safe. Question 10. A person without a Part 107 remote pilot certificate may operate an SUAS for commercial operations. A, only when visual observers participate in the operation. B, under the direct supervision of a remote PIC. Or C, alone if operating during daylight hours. The correct answer is B, under the direct supervision of a remote PIC. This is really interesting because a person does not have to have a remote Part 107 pilot certificate to operate the unmanned system for commercial operations. You can be under the direct supervision of a certified remote PIC, someone who's taken and passed the test, if that person is supervising you. So if you're on a two-man operation, you have two controllers. One is the operator of the aircraft. One's operating the camera. Only one of those people have to actually, the camera operator can be the certified remote PIC, and the person flying the drone, since they're under the direct supervision of the remote PIC, can actually do that without having a Part 107 certificate. Question 11. A person whose sole task is watching the SUAS to report hazards to the rest of the crew is called A, the remote PIC, B, the visual observer, or C, the person manipulating the controls. The correct answer is B, the visual observer. That is the person whose sole task is watching the SUAS to report hazards to the rest of the crew. So a visual observer is no longer required. You will recall under Part 333, the visual observer was required for the flight, but in Part 107, that person is not required, but that is the title of the person whose sole task is watching the SUAS to report hazards to the rest of the crew. Question 12. When adapting crew resource management, CRM, concepts to the operation of a small unmanned aircraft, CRM must be integrated into A, all phases of the operation, B, the flight portion only, or C, the communications only. The correct answer is A. CRM concepts must be integrated into all phases of the operation. Question 13. You've been hired as a remote PIC by a local TV news station to film breaking news with a small unmanned aircraft. You expressed a safety concern, and the station manager has instructed you to fly first and ask questions later. What type of hazardous attitude does this attitude represent? A, invulnerability, B, machoism, or C, impulsivity? The correct answer is C, impulsivity. So the station manager who instructed you to fly first and ask questions later exhibited the characteristics of being a very impulsive person and just wanting you to go ahead and do it, not worry about any safety concerns, and just get it over with and worry about it later. Question 14. Under what conditions should the remote pilot in command of a small unmanned aircraft establish a scheduled maintenance protocol? A, when the manufacturer does not provide a maintenance schedule. B, when the FAA requires you to, following an accident. Or C, small unmanned aircraft systems do not require maintenance. Correct answer is A, when the manufacturer does not provide a maintenance schedule. So the remote pilot in command of a small unmanned aerial system should establish a scheduled maintenance protocol when the manufacturer does not provide a maintenance schedule. So that's your responsibility. You should go ahead and do that. I don't believe there are... Well, actually, I take that back. I'm not really too sure. I've never read the DJI manual, whether that's good or bad. Maybe I'll report back on that. But I don't know. I'm sure they advise specific steps, but there's nothing, as far as I know, that's super formal of a maintenance schedule. Of course, you want to do a visual inspection and, a physical inspection of the aircraft every single time you fly. But yeah, that's the correct answer. A, when the manufacturer does not provide a maintenance schedule, is when you should, as the remote PIC, establish a scheduled maintenance protocol yourself. Question 15. Scheduled maintenance should be performed in accordance with the A, contractor requirements, B, manufacturer's suggested procedures, or C, stipulations in 14 CFR Part 43. The correct answer is B, manufacturer's suggested procedures. So scheduled maintenance should be performed in accordance with this manufacturer's scheduled or suggested procedures. So relating that back to the previous question, what conditions should you establish your own maintenance protocol when the manufacturer does not provide a maintenance schedule? So scheduled maintenance should be performed in accordance with the manufacturer's suggested procedures, but if there are none, then you're going to go ahead and have to establish your own maintenance protocol. Question 16. According to 14 CFR Part 107, the responsibility to inspect the small unmanned aircraft system to ensure it is in safe operating condition rests with the A, remote pilot in command, B, visual observer, or C, the owner of the small unmanned aerial system. The correct answer is A, the remote pilot in command. As stated earlier, the remote PIC is the person that's solely in charge of the flight, regardless of who owns the unmanned aerial system. So if you are the owner and you're the PIC, you're still responsible. But if you're not the owner and you're the PIC, you're still responsible. Question 17. Before each flight, the remote PIC must ensure that A, objects carried on the SUAS are secure, B, ATC has granted clearance, or C, the site supervisor has approved the flight. The correct answer is A, objects carried on the SUAS are secure. So before each flight, the remote PIC must ensure that objects carried on the SUAS are secure. So if you slap on some random device on your drone, like your tablet for playing Pokemon Go or your phone, then you're going to have to make sure that that is securely attached to your drone. Question 18. When operating an unmanned aircraft, the remote pilot in command should consider that the load factor on the wings or rotors may be increased anytime when A, the gross weight is reduced, B, the center of gravity, CG, is shifted rearward to the aft CG limit, or C, the aircraft is subjected to maneuvers other than straight and level flight. Correct answer is C. The remote pilot in command should consider that the load factor on the wings or rotors may be increased anytime when the aircraft is subjected to maneuvers other than straight and level flight. Question 19. A stall occurs when the smooth airflow over the unmanned airplane's wing is disrupted and the lift degenerates rapidly. This is caused when the wing, A, exceeds its critical angle of attack, B, exceeds the maximum allowable operating weight, or C, exceeds the maximum speed. The correct answer is A, when it exceeds its critical angle of attack. So a little super basic, very brief aerodynamics note here. So the wing and the relative wind there's an angle of attack. So there's a critical angle of attack when increased. So imagine that the wind is coming straight at you when you're operating the drone, the wing or the rotor itself, which is also a wing, but it's just spinning in a circle. If the relative wind is coming straight at you, that's good. It's going right over the wing and everything is as planned. But if it's going from the bottom, basically, and you're thinking about an airplane wing, then that relative angle of attack is way over what it should be, and that is past the critical angle. So then that's when a stall occurs. Question 20. What could be a consequence of operating a small unmanned aircraft above its maximum allowable weight? A, increased maneuverability, B, faster speed, or C, shorter endurance? The answer is C, shorter endurance. So a consequence of operating your drone above its maximum allowable weight is shorter endurance, and that's just basic aerodynamics, physics. So the heavier the object is and nothing else changed, the motors, the rotors, the battery capacity, then you're going to see shorter endurance because you are carrying more weight and it costs more energy to keep that aircraft aloft. Question 21. According to 14 CFR Part 107, who is responsible for determining the performance of a small unmanned aircraft? A, the owner or operator, B, the manufacturer, or C, the remote pilot in command? The correct answer is C, the remote pilot in command. Again, you're seeing a trend here. Who was responsible for determining the performance of a small unmanned aircraft? The remote PIC, the remote pilot in command. When in doubt, you're usually responsible as the PIC. So definitely there's a lot of weight that comes with operating in the NAS, in the National Airspace System. So remote PICs, just be wary, be advised. Question 22. To ensure that the unmanned aircraft center of gravity limits are not exceeded, follow the aircraft loading instructions specified in the A, Pilot's Operating Handbook or UAS Flight Manual, B, the Aeronautical Information Manual or the AIM, AIM, or C, the Aircraft Weight and Balance Handbook. The correct answer is A, the Pilot's Operating Handbook or UAS Flight Manual. So to ensure that the aircraft CG limits are not exceeded, follow the loading instructions specified in the Pilot's Operating Handbook or the UAS Flight Manual. Question 23. How would high density altitude affect the performance of a small unmanned aircraft? A, increased performance, B, decreased performance, or C, no change in performance? The correct answer is B, decreased performance. High density altitude is basically really high up. So imagine you're operating on top of a really tall mountain. You have high density altitude, or you're at an altitude very high up. in relation to the sea level, you're going to see decreased performance because the air is a lot more thin and there's a lot less air molecules for the wings to actually interact with and to create lift. So you see decreased performance. Question 24. While operating around buildings, the remote PIC should be aware of the creation of wind gusts that A, enhance stability and imagery, B, increase performance of the aircraft, or C, change rapidly in direction and speed, causing turbulence. The correct answer is C. You should be aware of the creation of wind gusts that change rapidly in direction and speed, causing turbulence. So especially with a very small aircraft, this can be catastrophic. I mean, here in San Francisco, there's tons of wind. My building in particular, I'm very convinced that it's probably the windiest corner in the whole city. But that speed of the air and the rapidly changing direction can cause huge changes in the characteristics of the operating environment, and it can be catastrophic and create really dangerous wind gusts. So definitely be advised of that. Question 25. According to 14 CFR Part 107, what is required to operate a small unmanned aircraft within 30 minutes after official sunset? A, must be protected or must be operated in a rural area. B, the use of lighted anti-collision lights. Or C, the use of a transponder. The correct answer is B, the use of lighted anti-collision lights. So if you want to operate your unmanned aircraft within 30 minutes after official sunset, then you have to use lighted anti-collision lights. Most drones do come with these, but if yours, didn't come with them, make sure you put them on, you install them yourself if it didn't, or make sure that they're functioning because, before your takeoff, just make sure that the lighted anti-collision lights are there. It's just it's a safety thing. You can, keep track of the aircraft. Other aircraft can see you. Question 26. According to 14 CFR Part 107, how may a remote PIC operate an unmanned aircraft in Class C airspace, Class Charlie airspace? A, the remote PIC must monitor the air traffic control frequency from launch to recovery. B, the remote PIC must contact the air traffic control facility after launching the unmanned aircraft. Or C, the remote PIC must have prior authorization from ATC, air traffic control. The correct answer is C. The remote PIC must have prior authorization from air traffic control in order to operate that unmanned aircraft in controlled Class C airspace. So Class C is usually, a larger airport, and you definitely have to have prior authorization before takeoff from ATC, from air traffic control. Question 27. In accordance with 14 CFR Part 107, you may operate an SUAS from a moving vehicle when no property is carried for compensation or hire, A, over a sparsely populated area, B, over a parade or other social events, or C, over suburban areas. Correct answer is A, over a sparsely populated area. This is a really cool rule, a really cool provision for actually being able to operate a drone from a moving vehicle when you're not carrying property for compensation or hire, you're not crossing state lines, and you're not operating both the drone and the moving vehicle at the same time. So super cool for remote rural areas. You also have to be in a rural area and not over a lot of people, but it's a really cool provision for farmers, growers, people who are going to be operating over large distances. Question 28. In accordance with 14 CFR Part 107, except when within a 400-foot radius of a structure, at what maximum altitude can you operate small unmanned aerial systems? A, 500 feet AGL or above ground level, B, 400 feet AGL, or C, 600 feet AGL? The correct answer is B, 400-foot AGL. So this is another really cool provision. Arguably, one of the coolest is that you can exceed 400 feet AGL operating, 400 feet above ground level if you're operating within 400 feet of a structure. So if the structure is, 1,000 feet tall, you can actually be operating at 1,400 feet above ground level, since you're still within, 400 feet of the top of that structure at 1,400 feet. So this is great for doing inspections on cell towers, buildings, anything that really exceeds 400 feet. Question 29. The FAA may approve your application for a waiver of provisions in Part 107 only when it has been determined that the proposed operation, A, involves public aircraft or air carrier operations, B, can safely be conducted under the terms of that certificate of waiver, or C, will be conducted outside the United States. The correct answer is B, can be safely conducted under the terms of that certificate of waiver. So the FAA may approve your application for a waiver of provisions in Part 107 only when it has been determined that the proposed operation can be safely conducted under the terms of that certificate of waiver. So if you are going to ask the FAA to operate beyond visual line of sight or do anything that you would need a waiver to do, something that's not covered under Part 107, then you're going to have to go ahead, or the FAA is going to go ahead and ensure that the operation can be safely conducted under the terms of that certificate of waiver. Question 30. When requesting a waiver, the required documents should be presented to the FAA at least how many days prior to the planned operation? A, 30 days, B, 10 days, C, 90 days. The correct answer is C, 90 days. When requesting a waiver, the required documents should be presented to the FAA at least 90 days prior to the planned operation. That's about 3 months. So you definitely got to, think ahead if you're going to be requesting a waiver, an operation certificate from the FAA to do a specific operation. So make sure you really plan quite far ahead for this specific operation that you could be conducting. Question 31. To avoid a possible collision with a manned airplane, you estimate that your small unmanned aircraft climbed to an altitude greater than 600 feet AGL. To whom must you report this deviation? A, the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, B, Air Traffic Control, or ATC, or C, the Federal Aviation Administration, upon request. The correct answer is C. You must report any deviation to the FAA upon request. So this is kind of related to the previous episode about the get out of jail free card, or the NASA/ASRS report, the Aviation Safety Reporting System. So if you do think that you did exceed 600 feet AGL and the FAA comes knocking, if you've filed a NASA report and you kind of admitted to it, and in the interest of improving safety, you submitted it, then you could be okay from any specific FAA action that they see that you took proactive actions to go ahead and increase your own safety and the airspace safety as a whole. Question 32. Damaged lithium batteries can cause A, increased endurance, B, an in-flight fire, or C, a change in aircraft center of gravity. The correct answer is B, an in-flight fire. Damaged lithium batteries can cause a really cool-looking and very unsafe in-flight fire. Question 33. While operating a small unmanned aircraft system, you experience a flyaway and several people suffer injuries. Which of the following injuries requires reporting to the FAA? A, scrapes and cuts bandaged on site, B, minor bruises, or C, an injury requiring an overnight hospital stay? The correct answer is C. You must report to the FAA any injury that you cause that requires an overnight hospital stay. So you're not required to report if your drone bumps into someone and bruises them in a minor way, or scrapes and cuts them up. But if the bandages are applied on site, you're good to go. But if you have to go to the hospital, or if the person has to go to the hospital and they have to stay overnight, then that is required to be reported to the FAA. You're definitely going to want to submit a NASA report if that happens. Question 34. Within how many days must a SUAS accident be reported to the FAA? A, 30 days, B, 10 days, or C, 90 days? The correct answer is B, 10 days. You must report a SUAS accident to the FAA within 10 days. So if it's an incident, you're okay. You don't have to report it. But an accident, you have to report that within 10 days. Again, filing a NASA or ASRS safety report might be wise if this was an accident. If it was not an accident and you deliberately caused it, well, you're in a whole nother heap of trouble, and filing the NASA report's not going to help you. Question 35. The effective use of all available resources, human, hardware, and information, prior to and during flight to ensure the successful outcome of the operation is called A, safety management system, B, risk management, or C, crew resource management, or CRM. The correct answer is C, CRM, or crew resource management. That's the effective use of all available resources, human, hardware, and information prior to and during the flight to ensure the successful outcome of the operation. And during the entirety of the operation, you must be implementing that crew resource management, or CRM. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. We are done with the 35 questions on the FAA Part 107 test that was administered to me online. So this is definitely not guaranteed to be the exact question bank. The questions could change. They could have already changed. And I believe there even could be some more questions in the in-person knowledge test. I'm going to go ahead and link up the CATS, the Computer Assisted Testing Service, where you can pre-register to take the Part 107 knowledge test at a knowledge testing center near you. And any other information that I find out, I'll go ahead and post up on the website as well. So check the show notes on commercialdrones.fm if you want some more links. I'll throw a bunch of other, useful links with a bunch of information on there for you to go ahead and kind of digest, if you will, and see if that helps you guys. So I hope that this was pretty helpful. I would actually love to know if it was or if it isn't. The way that I imagine you're going to be listening to this is maybe a couple times. You'll kind of just listen to it on the way to the test for a little bit of refresher, or if you needed some extra information and just wanted to kind of get an overview of what the questions were like, then this hopefully was pretty useful for you. So with that, I'll go ahead and sign off. But if you liked what you heard, if it was helpful, let me know, leave a review and a rating. You can go ahead and subscribe, and I will be back next time with some more commercial drone knowledge. Cheers.